If you struggle with anxiety, here are 3 things that increase anxiety. It's important for you to know about them and understand how your anxiety works and how it's related to how you think and what you do. So the first thing is overestimating the risk. It's common for people who struggle with anxiety to overestimate the negative aspects of a situation that they're facing or that they're going to face. So they basically exaggerate on the way they see the situation, focusing exclusively only on the negative things and like interpreting neutral stimuli as negative stimuli. They don't even question it. This is usually very automatic. The person doesn't even realize they're doing it. But it is important for you to pay attention and see if sometimes you're doing that. Ask yourself, am I overestimating the risks? Maybe am I seeing it as more dangerous as it is? And when I mean dangerous of the situation, I don't only mean like physical danger, like somebody can harm you physically, but I mean emotionally dangerous. So for example, that the person thinks, I'm going to feel terrible during that situation, I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be criticized, I'm not going to know what to do. That is perceived by the person as dangerous. So that's what I mean when I say, like, when I talk about the risk and overestimating it. And at the same time that people overestimate the risk, they underestimate themselves. So they assume that they don't have any resources or skills to be able to deal with a possible risky or dangerous situation or anxious situation, right? So they assume, I will not know what to do, I will have no idea on how to behave, everything I will do and think and say is going to be wrong. And so that combination of overestimating the external risk, the situation, right? The risk of the situation, and underestimating your own capacity to deal with it, it's a perfect recipe for increasing your anxiety. Okay? The second one is hypervigilance. What is that? Is to pay a lot of attention to every single detail of the situation. That could be external or internal. When the hypervigilance is external, it means that you are paying a lot of attention to everything people say and do, and any little sign that you can interpret as being dangerous, once again, then you see it. And internal, when you pay extra attention to your own body, because as you know, anxiety, it has some physical signs. So your heart rate can raise, you can sweat, you can shake. And then hypervigilance of your own body would be like paying extreme attention and only like maybe like exclusive attention to what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're doing. And that only increases the anxiety. So why do people hypervigilate? There's a reason. The intention is to help themselves. The logic behind it sometimes is, if I am able to identify, like kind of identify every single detail of the situation, both external and internal, I'm going to be able to deal with it better. I'm probably going to be able to control and change certain things. So it's a good intention. It's kind of like a need of feeling a sense of control. But in the end, what's important to understand is that it's not only possible, because if we think realistically, it's not possible to control every single detail of a situation, but as well, it just makes us more tense, so it increases the anxiety. And plus, since you're paying exclusive attention to these things, you're not paying attention to other things about the situation that could be giving you information telling you, hey, things are okay. If you're assuming, for example, nobody's liking what I'm saying, nobody likes what I said. Maybe there's a person who actually liked it and who's actually showing you some signs or would like to talk to you to tell you that they liked it. But since you're so focused on that hypervigilance, then you might be missing out on other positive stimuli. Okay? And the last one, the third one, are the safety behaviors. So what are those? In cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a specific branch of psychology, psychotherapy, when we talk about safety behaviors, as their name says it, are some behaviors, so things that we do in order to feel safe, in order to feel safer. So when it comes to anxiety, it's basically anything the person has managed to do to kind of try to reduce their anxiety. But what's important to understand is, just as hypervigilance, which is actually hypervigilance is an example of a safety behavior, they just make the anxiety worse. because they prevent you from actually dealing with the situation. So usually the safety behaviors, they tend, it's a way of avoiding dealing with anxiety. And the more you avoid what scares you, the more it's going to scare you. And next time, like, you avoid something that scares you, that makes you anxious, and then you feel, in the short term, you feel better. But in the long term, you're going to feel worse because you didn't have the chance to train the skills necessary to go through that situation. So next time you deal with that thing that scares you, you're going to be even more scared. That's important to understand about avoidance as a strategy in dealing with anxiety. And I'm going to give you an example of a specific safety behavior for you to understand better how they work and why they are dysfunctional, why they're not good for your anxiety. So for example, many people they struggle with making decisions by themselves. They're afraid of making decisions by themselves, and when they have to choose something, even if it's something very, very simple, they really have a hard time and they get really lost and really anxious about it. That's why they're so afraid of making them, and they try to avoid it. And so every time they have to make a choice, they get blocked. So what they do, the safety behavior in this example would be, they would call all their friends or their closest friends and their relatives, people they trust, and they would ask them, what do you think I should do? Or they would say, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? Do you think it's the right choice, the right decision, or the wrong decision? So they would check with other people. This is a safety behavior. When they're doing it in the short term, it makes them feel better. It reduces their anxiety. But if you think about it, in the long term, if they do this every time they have to make a choice, then next time they make a choice, they're going to be even more insecure. And because they're sending, by doing this, if they make the choice based on what people told them, what they're telling themselves is, you're not able to make a decision by yourself. So their self-esteem goes down. And since they were not able, actually, because they asked for help, their self-confidence goes down as well. So next time they have to make a choice, they're going to carry this with them. Like, see, remember, whether it's conscious or unconscious, but they're going to have this feeling, I'm not able to make decisions. I'm not able to make good decisions, and I shouldn't trust myself because I really don't know how, and I'm not good at this. So the tendency for them to repeat the safety behavior is going to be even higher. So instead of doing that, what they should do is, like, with simple little things, not huge decisions, important life-changing decisions, but like little decisions, start facing them and forcing them to themselves to make them, and accepting and also understanding that when you make a mistake, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with you, you're the worst person in the world. It just means that you made a mistake and you can learn from it, and it's an opportunity for growth. Yeah? So instead of avoiding, what people should do is to not use those safety behaviors. And also because when you use the safety behaviors, you kind of reinforce the idea that you need to do those things in order to go through that situation that scares you, right? So if every time you have to make a choice, you ask your parents, then you're gonna reinforce that idea, like, yeah, I made the right choice, but it was only because I asked them, so I need to do that. Yeah, you're never actually gonna test whether you're actually able to make a good choice, which is something that can only happen if you take a risk. Yeah, and then you take a risk and you make a choice, and sometimes maybe you're gonna make a mistake, but other times you're gonna make the right choice. And in those cases, there's a transformation, because then you understand, wow, you have like evidence that contradicts that idea that you're not able of making choices. So these are 3 examples of things that can make your anxiety go up. And it's important for you to know these things in order to understand how you're acting and what's helping and what's not helping with your anxiety. So if you go through this, if this information was useful, or if you know anyone who might find it useful, please share this content and feel free to contact us. My name is Laura Rodriguez. I am a psychologist, psychotherapist. I'm a specialist in cognitive behavioral therapy and human sexuality. And at our clinic, mental health clinic, Rodriguez Costa, we are ready to help you with this and many other challenges that you might be facing.